welcome whether you've been here before or you just found this video. I'm really glad you're here. My name is Karen and this is my ESL Listen-Along Series where I read my own book aloud chapter by chapter to help you grow your English through real adult storytelling. The book is called Of Fire and Fate and I wrote it, which means I get to read it to you with absolute zero guilt. Here's how this works. I will read you one chapter. Then I'll come back and we will look at some of the vocabulary, idioms and language highlights from that chapter together. You can simply listen, treat it like an audiobook. Or if you want to read along with me, you can find the book on Amazon, paperback or Kindle. The link is in the description. Here's how this... Before we start, a quick but important note. This is an adult book. It contains explicit sexual content, themes of domestic abuse and trauma, and some other difficult topics including violence and pregnancy loss. It is written for readers 18 and over. If that's not right for you, no problem. My Dr. Dolittle series is completely family friendly and linked in the description below. Still with me? Brilliant. Let's go. Before we meet our second character today, let me remind you or catch you up on where we are. In the prologue, we met Seraphine. She lives inside a religious cult, isolated from the outside world, married to a man the community calls the Prophet. To everyone around her, he is a leader, a spiritual guide, a good man. But behind closed doors, Seraphine has lived years of fear, control, and abuse. The prologue drops us right into the most dangerous night of her life. His violence escalates, and Seraphine, a woman who has learned to make herself smaller and smaller to survive, finally fights back. She runs. That is where the prologue leaves us. A woman who has just turned her entire world upside down and does not yet know what comes next. And today, Chapter 1, we leave Seraphine entirely because it's time to meet Draven. Draven is a dragon king. He rules a kingdom from Montview, high in remote mountains, hidden from the human world. His people are shifters, beings who can move between human and dragon form, and they have kept their existence secret from humans for centuries. But Draven's kingdom is in crisis. His people are dying out, children are not surviving, and the ancient magic that once guided every dragon to their destined mate, their true mate, has gone silent for generations. Except for Draven. 10 years ago, he had a fragment of a vision, not a face, not a voice, just a pair of eyes, hazel flecked with gold. And he's been searching ever since. Tomorrow, he is traveling to a seaside town called Wavecrest. Find your page if you have the book. Get comfortable. I'll see you on the other side. Open air, limitless space. In human territories, I would never risk this. We're careful. Centuries of being cautious to remain hidden. A dragon seen in full daylight near a city. That's how entire kingdoms of shifters are exposed, hunted and destroyed. We fly only at night near human populations, only at high altitude where we can be mistaken for aircraft, and never ever where we can be photographed clearly. But here I can be what I am without fear of exposure. I spiral higher, letting the sun catch my scales. From here I can see the migration patterns of the mountain elk, the smoke rising from breakfast fires in the lower villages, the training grounds where our young warriors practice aerial combat maneuvers their children may never master, if we have children at all. The thought crashes through my euphoria like a stone through glass. I tuck my wings and dive, punishing myself with speed, with the rush of descent that borders on reckless. The mountain face blurs past rock, pine, snow. They blur into one, and only at the last possible moment do I pull up, talons scraping stone as I land on the private balcony outside the council chamber. The shift ripples through me, a sensation like fire and water combining, neither painful nor comfortable, but wholly necessary. Bones compress and reshape, wings folding into the muscle and sinew of a man's back, scales receding beneath human skin that never quite loses its golden undertone. The transformation takes seconds, though it feels like stepping between worlds. I stand on human legs, chest heaving, still chasing the freedom of the sky. The formal clothes I'd shed before the flight wait on the bench, because even a king must maintain appearances, must play the part of civilized ruler, when all I want is to burn the whole cursed system down and start over. But I can't, because without the system, without the careful balance we've maintained, my people will die even faster. I dress quickly and push open the bronze door. I'm suffocating. Not from lack of air. The high ceilings of the Dragon's Council chamber at Montview ensured excellent circulation, but from the sheer, crushing weight of failure. It wasn't boredom, it was the suffocating predictability of desperation. The chamber itself is a monument to our fading glory, carved from the very heart of the mountain. The walls are polished black obsidian, streaked with veins of molten gold that refused to glow. Sunlight, filtering through the massive arched window depicting a triumphant ancient dragon, should have filled the space with light. Instead, it casts a dull yellowish pallor, illuminating the weary certainty on the faces of my elders. The air is thick with the faint, cold scent of dry ash, the smell of a fire that hadn't, in actuality, burned in generations. I sit in the king's chair, a throne of blackened iron, cold against my back, surrounded by the same faces, the elders and my advisors, forging the same solutions from the same cold, dead iron. Are you even listening, Dry? Of course I'm listening, I bite out, the sound a low rumble in my chest. Geldrick leans back in his chair, the ancient wood creaking under his weight. His dark eyes, more teal than blue, like deep ocean water, study me with the particular brand of exasperation only a lifelong friend can muster. You could try pretending to look for her at least. Maybe attend one of the gatherings without glowering like you're heading to your own execution. The eligible females are starting to think you're actively repulsed by them. I'm not repulsed, I mutter. I'm just hopelessly devoted to a woman who exists only in fragments of a broken prophecy. Geldrick's voice carried across the chamber with deliberate volume, making several elders shift uncomfortably. He's the only one that can speak to me like this. The only one who remembers when we were both young and stupid, before crowns and responsibilities crushed the lightness out of everything. Geldrick. Theron's voice cuts in, gentle but warning. Perhaps we might... No, let him speak, I say, waving off the elder's concern. He's going to anyway. Might as well get it over with. Geldrick grins, sharp and unrepentant. I'm just saying, Your Majesty, he loads the title with affectionate mockery, that moping around about a pair of eyes you saw in a dream 10 years ago isn't a viable succession strategy. The elders are too polite to say it, so I will. At some point, you're going to have to consider that maybe the visions are just done. Finished. Dead as last century's hunting traditions. The words land like physical blows, even though I've thought them myself 1,000 times. But hearing KL say them out loud, here in the chamber, with its weight of history and expectation, makes them unbearably real. The visions aren't dead, I say, my voice dropping to something dangerous. They're dormant. There's a difference. Is there? Kale challenges, leaning forward now, his earlier humour evaporating into genuine concern. Because from where I'm sitting, dormant looks a lot like extinct. And we, he gestures to encompass the room, the kingdom, everything, don't have time to wait for the dormant to wake up. I run a hand over the scruff of my jaw, a nervous habit I just can't break. But what do you want me to do? No vision, no instinctive pull, no perfect mate. I can't force the destiny of the species. My chest tightens, a sudden, familiar, agonizing ache. Dragons used to be the dominant shifter species in the world. The undisputed masters of the high peaks and deep valleys. Now, we are an endangered secret. A flutter stirs inside my chest, a small, desperate heartbeat of my dragon. He is restlessly unfurling his wings within, unwilling to give up hope, yet warning me nonetheless. It is custom that every dragon shifter receives a clear vision of their true mates on their 21st birthday. This vision is a personal guarantee, a glimpse of the person destined to be their perfect match, to share their fire and secure their own lineage. The king's vision of his queen, the promise of the flame, is simply the strongest among them. But the vision stopped generations ago. The memory hits me without warning, as it so often does during these interminable meetings. I'm not in the council chamber anymore. I'm standing in a different room, 5 years ago, watching everything fall apart. Queen Alara, my predecessor's mate, chosen through genuine affection, if not by destiny, had carried the child to term against all odds. 9 months of careful monitoring, of protective spells woven by our eldest mangers, of prayers to gods who seemed to have stopped listening. I was only 27 then, crown prince and not yet king, but I'd been summoned to witness what we all hoped would be a miracle, a viable heir. The room smelled of medicinal herbs and fair sweat, and the midwife's hands shook as she worked. "The baby's coming," she whispered, and for one crystalline moment hope blazed so bright it hurt. The child was born silent. A little girl, perfectly formed, with her father's golden eyes and her mother's delicate features. She took one breath. I heard it. We all heard it. A tiny gasp of new life. And then it simply stopped, as if the world itself had deemed her too fragile to exist. The queen's wail of grief had echoed through the mountain halls for hours. The king, my uncle, had stood frozen, staring at the tiny body as if he could will her back to life through sheer force of royal command. She'd lived for 3 minutes, 3 minutes of hope before the curse of our failing bloodline claimed her. "The fire wasn't strong enough," the senior healer had said, her voice hollow. "Without the true mate bond, without the prophecy to guide the pairing, the children, they simply cannot sustain themselves. The magic that once made us strong now makes us brittle." 3 minutes. We'd lost everything in 3 minutes. I blink, forcing myself back to the present. Theron is speaking, his aged voice carrying the weight of too many similar memories. "We understand the pressure, King Draven," he says carefully. "The visions were our compass. When they were clear and complete, we thrived. Our collective fire weakened, the visions became fragmented, showing less and less until they showed nothing at all. Some believe it's the natural decay of ancient magic. Others... He pauses, choosing his words carefully. Others wonder if we've diluted our bloodlines too far, choosing mates for politics or convenience rather than destiny. What does it matter why they failed? I ask, my voice rougher than intended. The result is the same. We're dying. It matters, Elder Rhiannon says firmly, because if we understand the cause, we might reverse it. Your vision, fragmented though it was, is the first in 3 generations. That alone gives us hope that the magic is not dead, merely sleeping. A vision of eyes tells me nothing, I mutter. How am I supposed to find her when all I know is what colour her eyes are? You'll know, Theron says with surprising conviction. A true vision cannot be faked or imagined, Your Majesty. When you see those eyes in the waking world, you'll know with absolute certainty. The magic speaks directly to your dragon, bypassing conscious thought. It's not the mind recognizing, it's the soul. And what if I walk past her in the street and don't notice? Impossible, Rhiannon interjects. The bond pulls, even dormant, even unfulfilled. It pulls. You won't be able to ignore her any more than you could ignore your own heartbeat. Theron starts speaking again, this time about the wolves. I blink, triggering myself back to the most recent annoyance, but his words blur beneath the weight in my chest. The pressure to find her grows heavier each year, pressing down as our strength wanes. Kael's voice snaps me back. Those mangy curs think because we've been quiet, we've gone soft. Kael spits the words, hatred of the wolves shining through every word. I say we remind them why dragons ruled the skies when their ancestors were still cowering in caves. Kael, I say softly, and he subsides, though his jaw remains tight with barely contained aggression. This is his gift, the ability to voice the violence we all feel but cannot express. He's my rage manifested, my conscience giving teeth. The wolves are not the immediate threat, I continue, forcing my voice into something resembling royal calm. The real threat is time. Every year without a proper heir, without a queen, we weaken, and they know it. Kings still fell in love, of course, but producing viable heirs grew harder with each passing generation. Couples struggled. The clan suffered. Children died young, and pregnancies failed. Despair spread silently through the ranks like a shadow no one dared name. I'm 32. I should have found her a decade ago. Not a hint, not a whisper, nothing. Nothing but a cruel, fleeting image of a pair of eyes. Typhon, the wizened elder at the end of the table, spoke next, his voice soft but carrying immense weight. He was the eldest and perhaps the most pragmatic, and the most worried. We understand the pressure, King Draven, Typhon said, but the silence is becoming untenable. The other shifter courts are starting to talk. The wolves, the Alpha has already suggested taking over parts of our northern territory, claiming we can no longer properly guard the human populations there. I'd like to see them try. Kaeldrick sneers, slamming his fist down. A fleeting flash of golden fire caught in his eyes. A controlled burst of dragon heat that evaporated instantaneously. The chamber doors open, and a pair of younger shifters enter, moving with the quiet, coiled power of those still in their prime. They are my lieutenants, their disappointment over their lack of a mate pool fueling their protective zeal. Lysander, a bronze dragon shifter with sun-kissed hair and skeptical green eyes, approached the table with a sheath of territory maps. The threat is less about the wolves' strength, Your Majesty, and more about the perception of our weakness. They see a king without a queen, a kingdom without prophecy. They smell the rot of a failing lineage. His tone was blunt, a hard assessment Draven respected. Lysander is right, added Zev, a darker-skinned shifter who moved with the fluid grace of a hunter, his presence radiating an almost frightening calm. Zev was my chief strategist and, like KL, perpetually single. He was renowned for his ability to detach emotion from logic. We need a proactive defense, a show of strength, or at the very least, a clear commitment to finding the mate. Zev's gaze shifted to me, respectful but demanding. The people are asking, if the ancient magic of the true bond is dead, what is the new covenant that binds us to our fate? Keldrick snorts, a sound that would be disrespectful from anyone else. What he means, Your Majesty, is that the people are asking, if ancient magic failed, why are we still following ancient rules? Maybe we need new solutions, not just new territories to search. New solutions, I echo, raising an eyebrow. Such as, I don't know, science. That human concept of matching genetic compatibility. Or maybe we could try the revolutionary approach of you actually talking to some of the eligible females instead of radiating touch me and die energy at every social gathering. Despite everything, the pressure, the fear, the crushing weight of responsibility, I feel the corner of my mouth twitch. I don't radiate. You absolutely do, KL interrupts. Last month at the summer gathering, Lady Astrid tried to offer you a cup of wine, and you looked at her like she'd presented you with a live snake. The poor woman practically sprinted away. The wine was poisoned, I say flatly. That stops him. What? Her brother is in debt to the wolf clans, according to Zev's contacts. It wasn't a strong poison, meant to sicken, not kill, but enough to embarrass me publicly, to make me look weak. I lean back in the throne, instantly exhausted. This is what you don't understand, Kael. Every interaction is a calculation. Every offered cup, every smile, every potential mate could be a political maneuver, a trap, an alliance that benefits someone else's agenda. I can't afford a genuine connection when everyone wants something from the king. The chamber falls silent. Even Keldrick, rarely at a loss for words, studies me with something that might be pity. Except me. He says the last, his voice softer. I just want my brother back, the one who used to race me through the cloud canyons and laughed when we crashed, the one who believed in ridiculous things like destiny and true love and magical prophecies. Brother. Not by blood, but by choice, by the 1,000 battles fought side by side, by the weight of shared history. He's right, of course. He always is when it matters. That person, I say quietly, is still here. He's just tired. Then rest, Keldrick suggests, standing and stretching with deliberate casualness that breaks the heavy atmosphere. Tomorrow's trip to Wavecrest will do you good. Ocean air, new faces, a chance to brood dramatically on different cliffs, in a different palace, for a change. My commitment is unwavering, I promise. I will keep trying. Tomorrow, when we are in Wavecrest territory, I'll meet with all the eligible dragon females in the Coastal Council. I'll even walk the human settlement there. It probably won't do any good. I think the pessimism is a heavy, cold shroud. I'm just hoping a new landscape will yield a new clue, or at least get me out of this room. The elders and advisors exchange grim glances. They have little faith in meeting more people, especially humans. Humans were ephemeral, chaotic, and almost always blind to our true forms. Finding a true mate among them was near impossible. The room was heavy with unspoken doubt. I met the eyes of the elders, noting their weary uncertainty. I stand. They rise steadily, a gesture of respect that felt hollow today, each creaking body a silent indictment of my reign. I needed space, my quarters, the roof, somewhere I could breathe and feel the wind on my face before I suffocated on their fear and my own. I climbed the stone steps to the roof of the palace, pushing open the heavy bronze door. The sharp evening wind is immediately upon me, tearing the stagnation from my lungs. Keldric follows, of course he does, his boots scuffing against ancient stone, worn smooth by generations of dragons seeking the same escape. You couldn't give me 5 minutes peace? Could you? I asked, not bothering to turn around. 5 minutes, Dre. I've given you 5 years of peace. Well, relatively peaceful, if you don't count that border skirmishes, the poisoning attempts, the 3 separate assassination plots, and that incident with the rogue griffin. He joins me at the gargoyle-carved railing, leaning his elbow on stone that held the weight of worried kings since before either of us was born. At some point, peace becomes wallowing, and I'm contractually obligated as your best friend to interrupt wallowing. There's no contract. Unspoken contract, implied by years of me saving your scales in combat and you pretending to tolerate my sparkling personality. Despite everything, I huff something close to a laugh. Below us, Mont View spreads across the mountainsides in concentric rings of civilization. Inner keeps, market districts, residential quarters, all the way down to the training grounds at the base, where our warriors drill in formations that grow smaller each year as fewer children survive to adulthood. I was thinking, Keldric says, his tone shifting to something more serious, about what Zev said, about the new covenant. Don't tell me you're going philosophical on me. I'm being practical, which is terrifying, I know, but bear with me. He runs a hand through his constantly windswept hair. What if the covenant isn't about finding your perfect mate? What if it's about you being brave enough to choose someone, vision or no vision, and making it work through sheer stubborn determination? You're good at stubborn determination. It's basically your primary personality trait. I close my eyes, letting the question settle into the hollow of my chest. And if I choose wrong, if I pick someone out of desperation and our children are born like Alara's daughter, the name settles between us, heavy as stone. Then at least you tried, Kael says calmly. At least you didn't let fear make you freeze, because right now you're frozen, Dre, and the kingdom is freezing with you. I want to argue. I want to rage about duty and destiny and the crushing impossibility of choice when every option leads to potential disaster. But he's right. Staying paralyzed isn't saving anyone. It's just a slower form of extinction. Just her eyes, I mutter, giving voice to the obsession I've carried for a decade. I can see her eyes so clearly, hazel flecked with gold, like autumn light through forest leaves. Intelligent, fierce, alive in a way I can't describe but would recognize anywhere. It isn't a vision, it's just a dream you came up with one night. Always the eyes, Keldric murmurs, and his voice carries a note of something I can't quite name. Understanding, maybe, or envy. Never the whole picture. Not her face, not her hair, not even her voice, just those eyes and the absolute certainty that when I find them, when I find her, everything will make sense. I grip the stone railing, feeling the immense power I wield thrumming through my veins. useless against this particular problem. How am I meant to find her if all I know is what colour her eyes are? She could be anywhere. I could walk past her in the street and the fire wouldn't even spark. Or, Kael says, clapping a hand on my shoulder with enough force to make me stumble, maybe you'll walk past her in some nowhere coastal town like the one we're going to tomorrow, and those eyes will look at you and the whole universe will finally stop being such an obstinate ass about the whole mate situation. I draw a deep breath, trying to regain control, but the frustrated energy in my chest is too strong. When I exhale, a visible wisp of smoke and molten flame follows the air, instantly dissipating in the wind. The dragon inside stirs again, impatient, yearning for the freedom of the flight earlier today. A flutter of molten fire burns through my veins, demanding release. Want to fly? Kael asks, recognizing the signs. Burn off some of that kingly angst before you accidentally set the council chamber on fire. Can't. Meeting with the wolf envoy in an hour. Ah, yes, the diplomatic meeting where you'll resist the urge to roast them all alive while they make thinly veiled threats about annexing our territory. Should be fun. Your definition of fun is deeply concerning. That's why you keep me around, to make your life interesting. He grins, unrepentant and incorrigible, and unexpectedly I'm grateful for him. For this moment of normalcy in a life that feels increasingly like standing on the edge of a cliff waiting for the fall. One day, I tell myself, flexing my fingers and feeling the power coiled beneath my skin. One day I will find her, and when I do, those eyes will see me. Not the king, not the desperate heir to a dying dynasty, but me, the man and the dragon, inseparable and whole. Kaeldrick doesn't interrupt again. He lingers by my side, a solid presence in the gathering darkness, letting the wind whip his hair. You'll know her when you see her, Dre, and she'll know you too. You just have to trust the fire. I hope he's right, for everyone's sake. I need him to be. The sun dips lower, painting the mountain peaks in shades of crimson and gold, the colour of dragonfire, of ancient power, of prophecies that refuse to die even when all logic says they should. And somewhere out there in the vast world beyond my kingdom, a pair of hazel eyes exist, waiting. Whether they belong to my salvation or just another beautiful impossibility, I'll find out soon enough. Tomorrow, Wavecrest. Tomorrow, maybe everything changes. Or tomorrow I add another disappointment to the crushing collection I already carry. Either way, I'll face it, because that's what kings do. Even kings who are gradually suffocating under the weight of destiny. And that was chapter 1. We have finally met Draven, and if your first thought was, well, he's a lot, then honestly, same. But what a chapter for language. It is rich, it's layered, and it gave us so much to work with today. So let's get into it. 5 words I want to put in your vocabulary bank from this chapter. First, contested. I wrote about the contested borderlands where wolf territory presses too close. Contested means something that is disputed, where 2 or more sides are fighting over ownership or control. It is not settled, it's not agreed upon. The election results were heavily contested. They argued over the contested land for decades. You'll hear this word in political discussions, sports, and legal contexts constantly. It is one of those words that sounds formal but appears in everyday news language all the time. Number 2, pragmatic. One of the elders is described as the most pragmatic member of the council. Pragmatic means dealing with things in a practical, realistic way, rather than based on theories or ideas. A pragmatic person focuses on what actually works, not what should work in a perfect world. She took a pragmatic approach to the problem. We need to be pragmatic. There is no perfect solution here. It is a very useful word in professional and academic English, and one that will make your writing sound sophisticated immediately. Third, untenable. Elder Typhon says the silence from Draven about finding a mate is becoming untenable. Untenable means a situation that cannot be maintained or defended any longer. It has gone past the point of being manageable. The pressure on the team became untenable. His position was untenable after evidence came to light. It comes from the French word for holding. An untenable position is one you simply cannot hold anymore. A very powerful word for formal writing or professional contexts. Number 4, ephemeral. The elders describe humans as ephemeral, one of the reasons they doubt Draven could find his true mate among them. Ephemeral means lasting for a very short time. Here it refers to the human lifespan compared to a dragon's, but we use it in everyday English to describe anything fleeting or temporary. Social media trends are ephemeral, here today, forgotten tomorrow. There is something beautiful about ephemeral things, precisely because they do not last. It is a beautiful, slightly poetic word. Once you have it, you'll want to use it everywhere. And number 5, encourageable. I describe Eldrick, Draven's best friend, as unrepentant and incorrigible. Incorrigible describes someone whose bad habits or behavior simply cannot be corrected or improved. But, and this is important, it is almost always used affectionately in English. You say it with a smile, not a frown. He is absolutely incorrigible, always late, always charming, always forgiven. You are incorrigible, said to someone who keeps making the same lovable mistake. If someone calls you incorrigible, they probably like you very much. Now the idiom for this chapter, and this one is all about fear. Draven is trying to explain to Eldrick why he cannot simply choose a mate and move forward. And he asks, and if I choose wrong, if our children are born like Alera's daughter? And Eldrick replies, at least you didn't let fear make you freeze. Now, to freeze here is not about temperature. In English, we use freeze to describe what happens to a person or an animal when fear becomes so overwhelming that they cannot act at all, like a rabbit caught in headlights. The body and mind simply stop. You'll hear this in several forms. I completely froze in the interview. My mind went blank. She froze when she heard that noise. Don't freeze up, just say what you think. And Eldrick's version is particularly powerful because he says Draven is not just frozen, the kingdom is freezing with him. One person's paralysis spreading to everything around them. That is a beautiful writing and really vivid use of the word. And I want to leave you with something to sit with this week. There is a moment at the very end of the chapter where Draven stands on the roof of his palace and says, he can see her eyes so clearly, hazel flecked with gold, like autumn light through forest leaves. But he's never seen her face, never heard her voice. And he says, when I find her, everything will make sense. So here is my question for you this week. Do you think it is possible to feel a deep connection to someone you've never met? And do you think Draven's certainty in its strength? Or is it a danger? There's no right answer. This is about exploring ideas in English, forming opinions, finding the words to express it, and practicing that higher level of thinking that separates good English from great English. Leave your answers in the comments. I read them all. So that is chapter 1 done. Next week, we're back with Seraphine, and things in Wavecrest are about to get very interesting. The book link is in the description if you want to read ahead. No judgment at all. I completely understand. Subscribe so you don't miss next week. Take care of yourselves.